Alright, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this video. So for today's video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up Windows deployment services, specifically in Windows Server 2019. As you can see, I already have my virtual machine up and running. You should have your clients from one of the previous videos together with the Windows Server 2019, which is the one that we're currently running. You should not have this Mint one. This Mint one was for my personal projects, but nevertheless, those are the only two required ones. In this case here, we're going to be setting up WDS or Windows Deployment Services, so let's get right into that. So first and foremost, we're going to click on Windows Server Manager. Of course, if it doesn't boot into Windows Server Manager on first boot, of course, you can just search up Windows Server, not that one, Server Manager, sorry. There we go. There it is. You can run that and it will be fine. So in Server Manager now, we want to head over to Add Rules and Features. Then from here, going to bring the window a bit up here. From here, what we're going to be doing is we're going to go to role-based installation, click next, select the server that we're going to be using. In this case, it's this server. Click next. And now we want to click on, or we want to make sure rather, that Windows Deployment Services under Server Rules is checked. First and foremost, click Add Features. Cool. Click next here as well. And simply just make sure all the features that you would have run previously are, of course, in the server itself. We're going to click on next. And Windows Deployment Server, you can see that it gives us a summary based on what the service will do. So in this case, we have DHCP, DNS, stuff like that. You can see that they require NTFS partition to store the file, which should be our root partition should be NTFS partition, so it should be fine. However, I would recommend to install this on a separate drive, whether that be a flash drive or preferably not a flash drive, but something in the computer like another C drive or something like that. That would be much more stable. And I would highly recommend that over installing it on the machine itself or the actual computer drive itself. But nevertheless, we can click next, make sure deployment server and transport server is on. We can click restart if we need to. I'm not going to do that. We can restart it automatically if it starts to give trouble, but we can just get a summary of everything here. We want to install remote server administration tools and deployment services, which should be fine. We're going to click on install and we're going to let it install. Now, while this is installing, I'll explain what exactly Windows Deployment Server allows us to do. Or sorry, Windows Deployment Services allows us to do. It essentially allows us to boot into network devices or from a it allows computers on the same network to boot into network devices. So for example, that's sort of why I recommended to install this on a separate partition or even better, a separate drive. Because more likely than not, we're going to be getting the install from that specific drive that is installed on. Right, and you can see here that the feature installation, it succeeded, so that's great. You can close. Just click on the notifications here, just make sure everything is good. Cool. From here now, what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to configure what this should be. So in this case, we're going to go to tools here. We're going to scroll down to Windows Deployment Services. There we go. And you can see that we have a bunch of different things here. So in this case, we have this pop-up. We have Windows Deployment Services. If we click on the drop-down arrow by servers, we can see the domain that we would have created, in this case, the server. And of course, we get the notification that Windows Deployment Services is not configured on this server. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to right-click, click on Configure Server. And of course, it tells us a brief thing before we begin. So of course, we need to be a part of the AD Active Directory domain server. Domain, definitely, we have DHCP installed on the server from a previous video, DNS as well. And we also have that NTFS file partition. In this case, it will be in our local C drive. But like I said, I would recommend that you have a separate drive for these kinds of things so that you, in the event that Windows Server fails, you don't lose out on the images. And quite frankly, it slows down your system a bit if you were to use it on the local disk. So keep that in mind. But yeah, click on next here. We want to integrate with the directory? Of course we do. So we're going to click on next. And of course, this will just be the part for the install. So in this case, we have the um, in our C drive to remote install, which should be fine for my case. But like I said, I would recommend you installing it on a uh, separate drive, right? That's really important. But in our case, here we're just gonna, yeah, see, even Windows recommends that I want to, or that I should install it on a separate volume, which is a good thing. But no, we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna click on next and we're gonna continue. Now, of course, we want the server to respond to all clients. We can respond to known clients, which should generally be what we should pick here. But specifically, in terms of our computer, in terms of our virtual machine, I assume you're gonna have a lot of different networks and a lot of different computers on the same network. So generally, what's it with to mitigate any errors that you may occur, I would suggest putting it on this. But for security reasons, you definitely should go with respond only to known client computers. But for my case here, it's just the computer and the client connected to this network, so I'm not too concerned. I'm going to click on next, and we can see that it is installing here. And yeah, now we can add images to the server now. So I'm going to exit out of this here for now. Yes, I'm going to stop here. And you can see that in the server now we have a couple of different folders. We have install images, we have boot images, we have pending devices, multicast transmissions, and drivers. So like I mentioned before, this will allow us to remotely boot into any computer, specifically on the network, right? It will essentially use the network as a boot drive. So let's start off first and foremost with the installation here, or the, what's the word? Not the installation, the install images. There we go. So let us configure that here. So let's take a look. So I'm gonna go to install images. There's none here right now, which is fine. I'm gonna right click. We're gonna go to add image, right? Now from here, sorry. From here, what we're gonna be doing is adding any image that you want to install on your client computer. In this case, this is where you would have your, let's say, Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows XP, whatever operating system you want. This is where you are going to uh, put your different install images. So in this case, for the purpose of this, since I don't really have any uh, drives that I can partition at the moment, what I'm going to be doing is just using Windows Server 2019 as my boot. So uh, any any device or any computer on the network can choose to boot into a fresh copy of Windows Server 2019. Of course, that may not be practical for your use case. You may want to consider and more specifically configure a different image, more client friendly. In this case, Windows 10, Windows 11, even some Linux distros. So, first and foremost, we need to create an image group. Uh, we can name it anything. I'm just going to leave it as this for now. We could actually change it to the OS. That would be preferred, but just for example purposes, I'm going to leave it here. Now we have to enter the location or the Windows image that contains images to add. So we're going to click on Browse here. We're going to go to our CD drive, Sources, and scroll down. Why is it not letting me? Oh, is that? Oh, I guess that's the entire thing. Okay. Nevertheless, what we're going to be doing is going all the way down here, and we should see, where is it here? boot.wim. There we go. So we can click on OK. And if we click on next here, oh, I guess that's a bit weird. Let me see if I did that correctly. So sources XP. Right. So that's a bit weird. Why am I not able to see that? Let me double check and make sure that the actual image file is there. Sources, image, where is it? Oh, I guess we don't have the image file here, which is a bit weird. Usually should be here with the boot.wim. Just give me 1 second, let me configure this, and I'll be back shortly. Alright, sorry about that. So what would have happened is that instead of having the Windows Server, instead I would have had a different disk in the actual, well, drive here, in the virtual drive. So instead of Windows 10, or instead of EN Windows Server 2019, I would have had Windows 10 ISO, which is why I probably could have find this install.wim. But nevertheless, let's continue on. So I'm going to go to install images, click on add install images, create the image group, next, go to file, go to the CD drive, go to sources, go to install.wim, go to next, click all the ones that we want to add. So in this case, we can add 4. So you have server standalone, server standard, data center, or data center core. So in this case, I'm just going to remove all of these, just so that it saves us a bit of time in terms of installation. And I'm just going to select Windows Server 2019 server standard. Click next. Let that install the image, and then we'll be adding a boot image, which is the boot's WIM file that I would have talked about previously. But yeah, so when this is finished installing, we'll be right clicking on boot images, the file or the folder itself, and we'll be going through the same process just with the boot.wim file. So we'll be taking a look at that as soon as this finishes installing. Alright, so it looks like the selected images was successfully added to the server, which is great. We're going to click on finish, and we can see that our Windows Server 2019 standard is right here. Cool. I'm going to go to boot images now. Going to right click, go to click on add to boot image, or add a boot image, sorry, and then we're going to select a file location by clicking browse, going to boot.wim, clicking OK or open, then clicking on next. So we can change the image name. Of course, this is just what its default is. In this case, this is the name of the image, which is fine. I'm going to click on next. Going to click on the selected image, which is Windows Setup 64-bit. So I'm going to click on next and let this install as well. Now, what this entire process allows us to do is from a computer connected on the same network, we can boot from the network and potentially install any of the operating systems that we would set up to this device or in this manager here. In this case, we have Windows Server 2019, and all you would have to do is enter the BIOS on the computer, change the boot option to network, and then from there you should be able to just boot into a network or boot into a very not really user friendly but a relatively okay UI user interface, and then from there you should be able to select which operating system that you want, whether it be Windows Server 2019 like in our case here, or if you have a different operating system, in this case like Linux Mint or Windows 10, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 11, whatever the case may be, you can do that here. And yeah, we're going to click on finish here. And yeah, you can see that we have our boot image here. We have the image itself, which is the Windows Server 2019 standard. Now, we aren't finished yet. The last thing that we need to do to make sure that this can properly boot off of the network is we need to have our server running. So we're going to click on the server itself, right click, and we're actually going to click on all the servers itself. Click on right click on the server, click on, wait, why is this not here? Oh, I guess on the domain itself, sorry. So the domain, we're going to click on all tasks, going to click on restart, and we restarted the Windows deployment services. If you don't see the option to restart, more likely than not, you should just stop it and then start it. And yeah, when we see that little green icon there, that means we should be good to go to boot into the network. So that is about it with regard to networking. So, or in terms of Windows Deployment System or Services, WDS. And that's how we sort of configure WDS to boot Windows Server 2019 on the network, right? So, like I said, you can do this with any operating system that you wish. It's just that unfortunately, I was limited to the boot. Sorry, I was limited to the virtual machine that I have here. So, in a real life scenario, you would most likely have the Windows 10, Windows 11, whatever operating system you choose, the installation disk, and you would be able to more than likely boot off of that and install the image onto the computer through the network. Right? No set of no set of installation or no set of computer hardware, for example, changing out SSDs and going out of your way to boot into every single one of those BIOSes to install Windows. You can simply just have one Windows or one image on the network, boot into that on all machines, install it from there, and your life will be a lot easier. So, this has been how to install WDS and configure WDS on a Windows 2019 server. So I hope you enjoyed and learned something from this video. As always, if you encounter any issues, I'll be more than happy to assist. Feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll try my best to respond as soon as possible. But again, thank you for watching this video and have a really good rest of your